we're, we're sitting there having fun and playing, and time got away from us.
Hello, everybody. How you doing? That's what
Hey,
we tend to do. We talk a lot while we're on here. I'm
yeah,
gonna, I'm gonna put that main light on. That's not helping. Ooh,
yeah, that's not good enough that we talk before and after the show. We got to talk all through the show. But hey, everybody. Don't know how many of y'all are out there. A few people are checking in. Glad to see you. Broke AZ was there earlier. I don't know whether he's still there or not. Jason, Timothy, how you doing, guys? Just getting rolling here. And what we were going to talk about today is the differences between pre 1940 traditional knives, slip joint knives, and knives today. Uh, and kind of, I was just showing Patty. Kind of what I mean is, if you look, this is a 1940 to 1964 case, red bone, and it's a what we call today a mini trapper, but at this time Case didn't call these mini trappers. And here is the one nowadays, and I'm kind of wondering, what you guys like, what you prefer. Do you like the newer ones? In some ways I think they're a lot better, in other ways not. And so we're just going to talk about that. And I'm going to turn it over to Stephen here to say hi and see what he's been up to.
hello, everybody. How you doing? Well, for those of you who maybe don't follow my channel that often, as you know, I broke a rib or cracked a rib, whichever way it worked out a couple of weeks ago. I'm happy to say I am feeling much better. The pain has subsided greatly this last couple of days, so I'm back to my normal self. I can talk twaddle now without any pain. It'll not affect your viewing, but that's just how it is. And I'm really glad to be feeling this way again. And yeah, this is an interesting subject. Do you prefer the older type of a knife, or do you prefer the modern? Or maybe as between the 1940s, as Michael was saying, then you've got knives that are in the 70s and 80s, and they're different again. They're still made that traditional way then, but maybe with more modern machinery than would have been made back in the 30s and 40s. It's been upgraded a little bit. And then you move on to today, when machinery is way beyond anything they had in the 40s, and they're knocking out extremely well. Well, a lot of companies are knocking out extremely well made slip joints. But do you think are they the same feel, or the same? Do they generate the same emotion? I know for me, there's a big difference, but I don't want to put words in your mouths. There's a huge difference between the older and that middle range, which tends to be where a lot of mine will be. That sort of 60s to 80s, 90s is my sort of favorite era.
It's not only build quality either. Like, without a doubt, they built them better pre 1940. But does it even really matter when you have knives like this fox knife right here? And this is a very robust little sodbuster type of knife, and I'm really, really liking this knife. And it's it's big old slab of micarta in there, and I'm not even sure what the steel is on this. I don't know, probably N690.
Yeah.
But when you look at this old Robeson right here, it's an old Trapper model, 4 inches, beautiful knife. But I can tell you right away, it's just not as strong as this knife right here. So whoa, let me get it. So a lot of character in that knife, and beautiful build quality. This is all original, stood the test of time. But then you get this, which is just dang strong. It's just an awesome little EDC knife to take out there in the woods or to work with you. And I don't know, it's kind of confusing, but I like them both, but
yeah. The other thing is the modern knives and the modern materials. If you want to just say, which is the better knife, the modern one is usually going to be the better made knife, not the better knife, but it's going to be the better made. You're going to have better materials. You're going to get longevity. You're going to get, all right, the materials might be better, but to me, they're not as pretty. They're not as soul. I mean, there's nothing like a rubbed bit of bone, a bit of jig bone that's been rubbed by somebody's hand for years. That's what gives me the fizz. Is
Yeah.
that notion that somebody, what was he doing? Because I'm a romantic, a romantic. I love the thought. I wonder what that person was doing when he had the knife. Should it be in the 60s? What was he doing? And then to even go further back to the 20s, the 30s, what was that man's life like? And how much was that knife worth in value to him compared to, say, a Jack Wolf knife that I have now? The value is next to nothing because I've got a couple of them. So they don't have that value. That man maybe only had that one knife, and that was his knife that he used and spent, money to get.
Well, I'll tell you on these case knives, for instance, at a let's just put $75 on the value there. I didn't pay that for that, but at a $75 value, that's actually equivalent to what this knife went for. So this knife went for about $1.75 in 1920, and in inflation adjusted dollars, knives are really not that. I mean, it's when you say $1.75 compared to 75, it seems outrageous. But in inflation adjusted dollars, it really isn't. They really come in. I've done that exercise a couple times, and they really come in close, to value, right?
I get that, but I think nowadays, the modern era, we have more expendable money by
Oh yeah,
far than what they would have had. Every generation, has seemed to have more expendable money that
yeah.
they can afford to do this. I mean, I couldn't have done this when I just got married. I couldn't
Mhm.
have had this knife collecting I have now
Yeah.
when I got married because you don't have the money, and you've got kids growing up. I couldn't have afforded this.
Yeah, I couldn't have done it 25 years ago because I had three kids, and
Uh-huh.
all of that money went into three kids. Not only that, as they got close to college age, I worked a full-time job and a part-time job
Uh-huh.
for years. For about 7 years, probably 8 years, I worked a full-time job, and yeah,
Even when I was in the Navy, I had, at the Navy, when I was shore based, I always had a second job because the Navy was not well paid when I was
yeah,
in the Navy. And I
we
go back
definitely.
to the 70s, and we weren't get. I. It's funny. This is a bit of a nostalgia trip as well, but I can remember when I got married and I had my first child, I was getting £66 a fortnight.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean? So
yeah,
I had enough money for an extra couple of beers or whatever, but
yeah.
that was your lot. There was no golf, there was no collecting knives. There was, I just didn't have that money unless I worked elsewhere.
I remember one time when I was in the Marine Corps, I had my wife and one daughter, and I would mow lawns to make a little bit of extra money,
Mhm.
even though I was in the Marine Corps. So Timothy said he really likes the 50s and back to the 1900s, but he carries a newer knife. I'll put that up there.
Yeah.
Elon's on there. Oh no, here goes everything right here.
But I mean, there's a perfect example. I mean, when you're carrying something like a newer buck from the 70s or a muskrat, a 50, they're knives that are just really well made knives. They don't have the highest steel unless you're buying the more expensive version of them, but just a basic version, which is very good. 428C has been proven to be a
Oh yeah,
really good steel, especially in the field. It's easily sharpened. If you get a chip, it's easy to take it out. So, I mean, there's a reason why people carry the more modern knives and
yeah.
keep the older ones, or don't even collect them. They like the fact that the modern is all they ever need. They don't need to go back. for
Yeah.
that nostalgic thing.
So, I mean, a good example of that is this Buck Sprint Pro,
Yeah,
and it's a little dirty. And I used that, I started planting. I told you that yesterday.
yeah.
Started planting some flowers, and I'm cutting through those. It's a hard type of plastic they use to
To wrap
hold
them.
them, the little pots. And I mean, this thing just sliced right through it,
Yeah,
and I can still shave the hair on my arm. And you don't get that with other knives. I mean, that thing is literally just cutting the hair on my arm, and I'm pushing my hand through that heavy plastic. And
yeah.
that's what I like about the modern steels. I'm not really a steel snob, slob. My wife
Yeah, they're a bit of a
might,
slob,
might
let's be
think
honest.
I'm a slob, but I'm good with just regular steel and knives, and I think for a pocket knife it's just fine. But it's kind of nice having those steels that'll last a little while and won't dull right away.
Yeah,
Uh,
there's a lot to be said. Do you want to have a read through the comments or?
yeah, Randy says he's a steel slob.
No.
You may just
Randy,
be a
look,
slob, Randy.
I just want to say Randy's in, so I'm going to show this just that Randy sent me today. He sent me this slip, which I love. I put a little pretty fob on it, which David Ravlin made for me. And then I have used this. I tend to have a slip for a knife, and that's what I use for that knife most of the time. So I put this one from Randy because it's very special because it's from Randy. And it's got an octopus in the front. I know there's a name for it, but I'm not up with all this sci-fi stuff.
Is it blue?
Yeah, it's a navy blue with red stitching, which he has done brilliantly.
Yeah.
And I put it in with my first ever custom, one of my favorite knives of all time, which is an Ashley Harrison. And this is the first time I ever told a maker, here's what I want, you make it. And that was what I told him. So, and it fits it absolutely perfectly. I love it, Randy. Thank you so much.
I've got a couple of, I want him to, he showed like a dragon scale one. I want to get him to make me one of those dragon scale ones he showed. I don't know whether he's doing a lot of that or not.
Well, you see, if you join the slip joint, the sanitarium Slippy's website, not his website, his little forum type page, and Randy has a page on there, and he puts all the ones that he sells on it. So you'd be able to get a look at all the ones that he sells and made.
On Slippy's page?
Yeah, well, on the sanitarium, you join and become a member of the sanitarium. There's a chat group, there's private groups, there's all sorts in it. But there's also a page for selling as well. And there's
I try to stay away from the sanitarium. A couple of times the white truck came, but I ran from my house. And
I've been twice. I recommend them. I enjoyed my time in them. And that's actually quite serious because I knew it was safe. If that makes any sense to you. When you're down and out and you've got nothing.
Well, it's the drugs too. They're giving you that. What is that?
The sanitarium was the best place for me.
I can't think of that drug they give you, but it numbs your mind out.
Oh no, I didn't get any of them drugs. No, this is a well, in the beginning they would have give you sort of drugs just to calm the shakes down, so you didn't get any bad seizures or things like that. So, but there was none of this complete mind-numbing drugs.
So a lot of you are commenting on, earlier in the 50s and how you didn't have a lot of money to buy knives too. And that really, plays into it because I think we just have so many more options now, with what we're doing, because even retired, I've got the income to buy a knife like that,
Yeah.
And I bought it right away. Not only that, I bought that and then went to Blade Show. But I didn't buy anything at Blade Show because I bought that knife.
Yeah. So isn't that? I mean, that also comes with with experience. Yeah. I mean, I see too many young fellas coming in, and I don't mean this as a daddy talk, but I see an awful lot of young fellas come in and they're starting off with a Chris Reeve knife, you know. I mean, and that's brilliant. If you've got the money, absolutely buy them, because I'd recommend them. They're brilliant. But if you're over budgeting to buy knives to keep up with the Joneses, the hobby will not last long. And that's why, you know, in 7 years, I can't tell you the amount of people I've seen. They've been around for maybe a year and then they disappear. And,
Yep.
you know, usually complaints before that, oh, I can't afford to keep up with this. You just have to buy better, and you just have to buy in your budget, because the price range of a knife doesn't make it a super knife. Like somebody said, they like saw cut bone. They love the old saw cut bone. There is a Rough Rider. Well, it's the Queen, but it's, you know, made by the same people now. That's some of the best saw cut bone I have ever seen on any knife. And it costs, what, $20 over there or something?
Yeah.
That is just immaculate saw cut bone. It's amazing. So you don't have to spend big money to get into pocket knife collecting.
That's true. Big E came in there, and Kathleen is in there, and Mikey Newman came on.
Hello, Mike. I was just speaking to Mikey Newman.
Yeah. And let's see who else we got. Okay. Boy, they're just tearing it up. It's hard to follow the comments. So, there's a lot of difference in these knives, I think. And I wonder how many of y'all really like these knives. This is a Queen and saw cut bone, a lot like yours that you just showed.
It's exactly the same.
There's no flaws in this knife. And I forget what, you know, I certainly didn't pay any more than 15 for it. Yeah. I think it was around $10, but man, it's just a nice little Warncliffe type knife.
You need to take that thing on the screen down. It's blocking your view.
Okay. I don't know how.
Just touch it and it should go back over.
Okay, Nope.
No, do you not touch on the screen?
Well, yeah, I'm getting like 7,000 comments on the screen. I got to find this thing.
No, this is the one that's right across the screen. Oh, there you go.
I get all these comments, so I got to go find that comment to get it out of there.
Yeah.
But anyhow, I was showing a little Queen, little Warncliffe. I love these little Warncliffe designs, and was really, really surprised about this knife. I love these Warncliffe designs because look at the control you get. Yeah. They're just great little knives for whittling and working with all kinds of little stuff. But
it's not a sway back. I love a Warncliffe, but I don't like a sway back, strangely.
Well, I mean, sway backs were meant to pull cuts.
Yeah, that's it. And I don't do a whole lot of that in my everyday life.
You know, but they're putting them on knives now, and you know, you can't use a knife like you normally would on the push cut with the pruner.
And I have pruners, don't get me wrong, but that's the sort of knife that's a specific job that you're going to do that with. And it's nice just to have them in the collection. But
it's just, you know, it's like little Kershaw. This is a perfect knife, right? So these things are absolutely amazing for the price point, and they retail for $40, but I got this for $20, and I've seen them more than once for that price. And just amazing little knives. And then, you know, you got this, what is it? This is a 75 model 87 case, you know, and it's just totally different era, you know?
Yeah.
This was really before, you know, case was struggling in the early 70s, and I found problems with case knives back to 1965, but they still made a really good knife, you know, at this time. This one's perfect, no problems with this knife. And but you know, they're expensive nowadays, you know, if you want to get a knife like that.
But there's one that I got in the second-hand market, and I think I paid £30 for it. It's a little case Stockman,
Yeah, it looks like a 90.
Yeah, it'll be somewhere around there. But it's beautiful, and even though this is sort of a lot younger than what we're talking about, the 50s or whatever, this still has the vibes of a 50s knife. And that's why I think, yes, it's lovely. I love collecting the older ones. When you can get them, it's fantastic, because that's the romantic in me. But even the sort of 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, Case, when they do a knife good, they're absolutely fabulous knives. And the only thing that differentiates them between, them and a Jack Wolf is blade steel. Really,
Yeah,
do you know, when you think about it, as far as a user goes, it's just blade steel. But
yeah,
my theory is, when you're collecting old knives, a Stockman is a great pattern, because you've 3 blades. You've only one of these.
right.
So I
That's
mean,
true.
this can get me through the day because I've got 3 blades.
But it's not only that. Like we were talking before. When you look at these old knives, a lot of it's in brown bone. Now, in the 20s, uh, right around the turn of the century, there was green. Then they went to brown. Then around the wartime era, they had some red and some strawberry. But they really didn't do a lot of colors. It was green, brown, or black. And nowadays you can you can get these knives. This is a GC, and you can see, well, maybe you can't see, but a lot of different colors in this
Yeah,
knife.
look, you can see the color. That's lovely. Yeah.
you know and that's one thing about today that's kind of cool. If you like orange knives, you can get orange knives, and if you
Yeah.
like purple knives, you can get purple knives. And you know even up to the 70s, you really couldn't do that. So that's one advantage with the knives nowadays
Well,
is you can get that.
it's funny you say that, because in the 70s, sort of when I was, well, I was in my late teens anyway, but I mean, these sort of knives, the Richards sort of knives that had different, maybe had girls on, half naked girls, or they had a car on it or a rocket on it. That was the color that you would have got. It was very basic on the back. It was that imitation pearl. But
Yeah,
these were the knives that attracted you when you went into a shop, and they were up on a sheet, a paper sheet, a card, I should say, and you
yeah.
could pick a knife, and they cost pennies. And that was your color. And like, there's another one from Richards. A really, really cheap knife. This is one Randy sent me, actually. But it had 2 blades. Do you know what I mean? And they still worked. It's still, again, it was not very good steel, but that's why they ended up being sharpened away to toothpicks.
Yeah. And we had celluloid, at the turn of the century, that was pretty
Mhm.
colorful. You had that color there, but you didn't really have it in anything else. And also, I think that the the wood uh, options are just off the chart now. You know,
Yeah. Oh,
and I mean, at the turn of the century, you had ebony, which was high end. You had rosewood, mostly in knives, and then you had lesser woods. Yeah,
that's Turkish walnut, which
yeah.
is a really rich, dark, coffee colored, beautiful, lovely veins through it.
Well, you didn't have
Lovely.
ironwood, and you didn't have
Yeah.
all these crazy woods that we enjoy today. So there's a lot to like about the traditional folders today. You know,
Yeah. We're so spoiled, if you know what I mean. But
yeah.
yet, you do not, I mean, you don't have that. Like, here's an old knife that's pretty well battered. It was well used.
Hmm.
It's in saw cut. I'm going to put this back on again, see if I can get a bit. Oh, there you are. That's a bit better. See,
Yeah.
it's in saw cut. But I mean, this knife has been loved and used. You can see the wear down here. That's
Hmm.
not put there by the manufacturer. That's just years of somebody using it.
Hmm.
Still got a good bit of life left in the blade. So, I mean, I still use this. This has got a sharp edge, just like any of my other knives. There's no spring in the small blade, but the top blade, I just love carrying this for nostalgia. I mean, it still cuts as sharp as you like.
Oh yeah. Yeah, they're fun to carry.
And it's an old poker. It's just beautiful.
So, in case y'all didn't know, Jesse McJames is the production manager, and he's yelling at me to encourage you to like, share, comment, and shamelessly promote Rasputin's Castle and Patty's potato peelers. So
Just
I was remiss there, Jesse. Thank you for pointing that out.
don't worry about me. Get Rasputin's Castle. Let's get his numbers up. Whack them into him. I'm old and festered. I don't need them anymore.
I don't care now. I just do it for the fun of it. You know, I do it for the fun of it.
Randy was talking about latex. I think I'm in the wrong studio. I'm not sure, but latex.
No, that's because
into
Mikey got on here. I told you it was going to go downhill.
I haven't got into latex yet. I've tried, but I never used talcum powder.
Yeah.
I'm gone.
Yeah, I'm not going to go there. Okay.
But, you know, I mean, as somebody was earlier on talking about the Big Daddy and some of the old Big Daddy Barlows, that's when you got to see the creative sort of bone. This one's in, look at this beautiful knife. Mm-hmm. Look at the ram's horn on this. Ram's horn, or it's ram's horn bone, I believe. This is a Rough Rider. But look how well they have made this look like an old-fashioned knife. And they've completely succeeded. That is and the weight of it, the size of the blade, I mean, it's just a monster of a blade. Beautiful knife in the hand.
Yeah, a lot of collectors, if you just mention Rough Rider, they're gone, right? They're gone from the channel. But I've had such good experiences with Rough Rider. I never respected them until I started buying them. And I think that's true with a lot of things in life, you know. And you make those comments, you hear other people. It's kind of groupthink, you know. And certainly they're inexpensive knives. I mean, this is a really nice knife, and you know, it just doesn't compare to some other knives. $16, it's copper, but you know, if you want one like that, Boker's really the only one doing these, and copper and copper pens and copper liners. And you know, this was $16. There's nothing wrong with this knife. The bone is not the best, right? So it doesn't compare anywhere near case or old time bone. But the point is you can have something, right? And there's a lot of people out there who can afford to go out and drop $1,000 on a knife, but there's also a lot of people out there that can't afford $50 on a knife. You know, life is hard now, and you know, those Rough Riders, I think are a pretty good option. You know.
Well, I cut my teeth in when I decided to go back to traditional knives. I'd cut my teeth with the Rough Riders. I'd find the patterns that I really liked, and I bought the knives. They were still great knives to have on my channel. The amount of people that buy them means that you nearly have to have Rough Riders in your collection, because there's a big audience out there who want to see them, and not just Rough Rider. You know, now we've got Rosecraft coming in, which is a step up above, and Rosecraft have filled a gap where you had Rough Rider and then it went to case. That was always a comparison. Now we're getting something that, you know, you can buy a really good Rough Rider in D2 steel for £50 or you know, whatever it is in dollars. So it's bridging that gap so that it's not such a big jump up to the case.
I tell you what Rosecraft did is, until they came on the scene, those Rough Rider reserves were getting a lot of attention. They started off in the $40, $50 range, and then I seen them sometimes at $90 that Smoky Mountain was raising them up to. And boy, once those Rosecrafts come in at 40, those prices started going down at Smoky Mountain Knife Work. So competition is great, you know.
Absolutely. We're in a fantastic position now for knives. And you can pick a start price that you're not going to go above. It never lasts, but at that moment in time, if that's the price you can afford, stick with it. You've no rush to get up to a $300 knife. I don't believe that you'll know how good that knife is if you haven't done the journey up the ways. Just try different knives in the price range on the way up, because if you're buying a £200 knife and it's your first sort of slip joint, what are you going to compare it to? You don't have anything to compare it to. So, and you've lost all the history, and to me, that's really important. I don't know anybody in the audience, is the history as important to you? I mean, I don't dig a lot of history, but I love the history of knives, if that makes any sense. I could listen to Michael all day because he goes into the history and delves into it so that I don't have to. My reading's not very good. I've only got 10 fingers. No, not even a slight giggle. Right, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no more dad jokes.
Yeah. Well, I tell my wife that she should listen to me because I say important things. And she asked me, well, when are you saying important things? And I said, anytime I talk. So
Yeah.
she should listen to me anytime I'm talking.
Yeah. Apparently, Labour are planning banning all knife sales. Yeah, it's just nonsense. I mean, it's just, when you think in reality, I mean, you can't buy a 3¼ inch slip joint, but you can buy a 9-inch chef knife. I mean, how is it going to affect sales of, how's it going to affect murder rates out there by banning a 3¼ inch slip joint?
Yeah, it's not. It's
There's
just
no.
So instead of controlling criminals, they're going to control you.
Well, they're going to control you to how big a knife
defending
you can
yourself
buy
against criminals, and it's absolutely ridiculous. And you have to stand up to that. You have to let your voice be heard, and get motivated, because it's not going to stop until you stand up and say enough is enough. For one thing, it makes no sense. Okay.
No, it's
So
no logical sense. But
you can take a nail. Okay. I worked in a prison. There was no shortage of very sharp things in the prison. They made shanks constantly. We cleaned them out constantly. They made them constantly. And that's the most controlled environment you can get. And so criminals aren't going to have any problems having sharp things, right? All they're going to do is take them out of your hands and prevent people who do things like collect and hunt and hike and camp from having the things that they need and should have.
But even somebody who just wants to carry a pocket knife because it's a great tool to have on yourself,
Mm-hmm.
And the sad thing is, it was only a couple of weeks ago, maybe a month, I'm not sure exactly, but there was somebody in England was stabbed by a stick that had a point sharpened on it.
Yeah.
There was no kick up about it. I don't think people here is going to ban trees. I mean, just where do you stop at it? Where do you stop?
Yeah. Jesse was banned from his plant, suspended because he was carrying a pocket knife. Where you're not supposed to let them know. That's the problem, Jesse. So I carry in hospitals. I don't care. I carry everywhere I go. I don't carry in a courthouse or something like that, but I carry everywhere I go, and I don't care. If I need it to protect myself, I'd rather have it than be dead and be right with the law. And
funny enough, I don't carry a knife ever to protect myself. I'll have to be honest. That's not something I even think about, to be honest with you. Now, that's probably because I'm an old fella and I don't go into pubs, I don't go to clubs, I don't do the things that other people do now. But I never have carried a knife for protection. I'll just be honest. That's but I can understand why somebody would want to, especially in this day and age. But that's a very dangerous argument to make against keeping knives, because
it's the best argument. You have a right to defend yourself.
Yeah,
it's a goddamn right. It's not a right that a government gives you. it's your right as a human being to stay alive.
But
And
yeah,
anybody trying to take away that right is on the wrong side of the argument.
I agree with you. But here's my argument against, not against that, but when you done your treaty and when you made these rules was much later on than when the UK's rules about knives started. It's been a longer process. And then when you got your treaty and you know you had to defend yourself, we don't have that written in our constitution.
Yeah, I know it.
So and then that's the bit. How does a penknife collector change that mindset? Can you change it? And I
Yeah.
honestly don't think the government or a lot of the people here in the UK will swallow it at all. I really don't, which is sad. And I
Well,
agree. I think yours is a
it
better.
starts with education, educating people about that. But beyond that, it's activism. It's getting other like-minded people to write your representatives and let them know you won't be voting for them. Matter of fact, you'll be working to get them out of office. And once politicians realize they can't stay in office because people are voting them out, they'll change their tune. That's what's happening with Brexit. So,
Yeah, I can
people are
understand
fed
that,
up
but
with immigration because immigration, there's nothing wrong with immigration, but they started opening up the floodgates and not vetting people. And you got a lot of really bad people coming in. And that does affect your society, your safety, and everything else. It's affecting your culture, your beliefs, and you can't even talk about that over in England. It's against the law to
well,
talk
yeah,
about
no, I think that's. I don't know whether
immigration.
that's completely right, but I do believe immigration has got out of hand. It's people coming across in boats. It's just ridiculous. Not even coming in the right way. That can't be allowed in
Yeah,
any country. If you've got a border, people have to come in through the right channels before they're kept here. I just and I do understand if there's been a war torn country and you're helping people to get out of it and to bring them in and give them temporary accommodation until things settle down and they can move back again.
you still got to know who's coming in. Last week, the FBI arrested 8 people who were members of ISIS that crossed the border in the United States illegally. And the thing about that is, a lot of people think it's Mexicans flooding across the border. That's not true, right? So that hasn't been true for a long time. It's people from Africa, people from the Middle East, Chinese people. These are people who come across the border, and all they do is check them and let them go. And they have no idea what the affiliation, the criminal background of these people are, or anything. The health, they have no idea what kind of bad things they're bringing in. That used to be a big part of being vetted to come
Yeah.
in as an immigrant, is you had to be healthy. You couldn't bring typhoid in. You couldn't bring tuberculosis in. There's a lot of reasons to vet people. So
You think we've gone down a different alleyway somewhere along the line here?
yeah, I think we're not talking about knives anymore.
We do this in our conversations when we're off air, and that's the truth. We drift off, and I love the fact that we drift off.
But it
But
has to do with knives and knives laws and things like
yeah,
that,
it does.
really, because that's really what's going on.
Paul Boogie says millions of Irish people have immigrated over our history. Lay off the poor and the oppressed.
Yeah, we had a lot of Irish slaves come over in America. The English enslaved them and sent them over to America.
Yeah, well, I mean, to be honest with you, America was built on Irish labor.
You might say that.
Plus, you had potatoes and we didn't.
That's the biggest part of it right there.
Yeah. But yeah, it's. I mean, knives have always been, like you even take it the knife industry in the UK, which started off, in the 1800s, was the biggest in the world. They were sending them over the world. I mean, even the Bowie knives that were used in America and became famous were made in the UK and distributed to America. But then all of a sudden, you know, things can change round, and there was no need even back then for people weren't buying Bowie knives, they weren't buying self-defense knives, they weren't buying sort of. We don't have the wilderness that you have, so that industry sort of collapsed over here and boomed in America.
That's
So
how you change it right there, Patty. Collecting with Stan's got the answer. Run for prime minister.
No, thank you. No,
Everybody will vote for you.
Yeah. Sadly, my past might catch up before I get one.
They don't care about that anymore.
Oh, come over to England.
It doesn't matter what you've done or what you're doing, or, you know, doesn't matter whether you're a cocaine addict or anything. You know, it's, hey, if they like you, they'll put you in there. You could be a movie star and they'll put you in there.
Yeah, well, you know, I'm a star, all right. I'm not sure what sort of a star. 3-inch blade limit in LA County, but Orange County and San Diego is 3.5. Again, stepping over a road, and you're undecided on what you can carry. If you don't know, you're in trouble and you're caught. This is the madness of knives. No matter where, even in America, there is places that have rules that are just stupid. And it doesn't matter what country you're in. In Europe, they have all different rules. That you can't have a nail nick in something. You can't have just craziness all over the basic of all tools, the knife. But you can
I carried even when the laws didn't let you carry. You know,
well, so I refuse to say that. I never
worried about it.
I refuse to say that as because YouTube is spied on.
That's okay. The statute of limitations has expired, and you know.
Yeah, it's crazy. So what are your thoughts on knives? Let's get back to the topic. What are your thoughts? Do you like a mixture of knives in your collection? And this is a poll sort of. Do you like a mixture of old, new, modern, or do you like just one particular? It's all modern, or it's all, and it doesn't have to be just traditional knives, but mostly traditional knives have that history, whereas a locking knife doesn't really have that much history.
This is Pocket EDC. I've been watching his channel. It's really interesting. He man, I tell you what, he just likes to mess with things, and he has pretty interesting content. I tried to get him on the show, but he's chicken. He doesn't want to show his face on the show. He's probably wanted by the Canadian authorities. Yeah, that's why he won't come on.
There's a man all dressed in red sitting on a horse outside his front door.
Yeah, that's what it is. So
get on the channel, you coward.
Check him out though. Check out Pocket EDC.
Yeah, go and check him out there. Pocket EDC.
You know, another one that's come up recently. Did you check out that link I sent you? Patriot Knife and Tool.
Yes, yeah, I did. Yes, and I've watched a couple of his videos. Some fantastic knives. And the history behind them is just fantastic.
It's fantastic. You know, and not only is it just good information, but man, he has got some killer old knives, you know?
Yeah.
And not only knives, but I like everything. So he's got all kinds of stuff, scrimshaw stuff.
So you're talking about that. Jesse McJames has some cracking military knives. He does a lot of the military knives, and he has quite a lot of good knowledge on them. Mind you, all knowledge to me is good because I profess to have none, other than I like shiny, sharp things.
He just did one on a foul bayonet, and I'd never seen one before for the foul. Do you know what that is?
No, what was the knife again? I missed the beginning of the sentence.
It was a bayonet for a foul.
Right. No, definitely never seen that.
Yeah, so they came on the scene, but it came on right when NATO was standardizing, and I can't remember why, but they didn't adopt the foul. And what they ended up doing is they sold a lot to Africa. But it's one of those things I just never seen, a foul bayonet, and Jesse had one on there. He's got some incredible stuff. I love watching his channel. And, okay, so how do you feel about that? I mean, do you like a little bit of everything, or do you really enjoy, the new knives? And this is an incredible knife. You don't have this yet, do you?
What is that? Oh yeah, that's the new Berenson.
Yeah.
I've heard nothing but good about it. Absolutely nothing but good.
I watched 5 videos on this from and I just don't have a good history with Berenson. And so I said, okay, I'm gonna pull the trigger, and this thing is fantastic, man.
But yeah, actually, Mikey's in there. Baldy's Blades, who's in there. There's a channel you have to go and see. He's just new. He's only made about 2 or 3 videos, but he's a natural. He doesn't take himself seriously, and his videos are so easy to watch. They're not like mine. They're not half an hour long. It's usually 7 to 10 minutes, and he had one of those, and he'd done a smashing review on it, smashing review. So get over to Baldy's Blades. Please check them out.
And didn't he used to make shorts?
Yeah, I think he'd done shorts. He started off on Instagram, and then he sort of joined in with Slippy's, sanitarium, and he got to meet more knife people. And then we met him last year over at Sharp Show. He actually came and picked me and Justin up from the airport and dropped us back again, for which we're ever grateful. And we're going to do the same again this year. So I met a friend, for life, really, from that simple thing as going to a show. And I mean, we've met so many people from that show that are friends. Anytime we meet them, we know we have a conversation, and it's going to be one that we'll both enjoy, no matter who they are. So yes, I mean, one of the biggest benefits to knives is meeting different people. That's the nice thing, meeting interesting people. Yeah, we might only see them face to face once a year, but hey, that once a year will not stop talking for the whole day of 8 hours.
It was just cool when I went down to Blade Show. So I left like 1 o'clock, I think, but I saw the Knife Doctor there, and Terry's Knives and Man Stuff. Both of them just down to earth.
Yeah, two lovely gentlemen.
And I tell you what, this knife community is just fantastic. There's just so many good people in the community doing good things, and like Jesse, they one of them, I don't know the full story, so I'm probably going to tell this wrong, but they became, one of them had a some stuff that belonged to a serviceman, and the family of that serviceman became known, and they returned that. I think Big J and Jesse McJames were part of returning that to the family.
I remember that.
That's just incredible. You know what I mean? When you can do stuff like that.
That's spreading the good part about knife collecting.
Yeah.
You can't spread it any better than that.
I love it. I mean, I'm on 5 different forums, and it's just not like that. Like, there are good people, but there's also people, that make fun of you, and they belittle you, and some of them think they know something and they don't know squat. It's just a whole different experience.
But as humans, you have to pick and choose who you get along with. And like any organization, I mean, I'm a recovering alcoholic, and AA is founded on bitching, falling out, and starting a new group. That's how AA expanded so quickly around the world, was when people fell out because they didn't like somebody else's opinion, started a new group. So no matter where you go, where there's a crowd of people talking about the same subject, there's always going to be individuals who want to just put a downer on it. But I just stay away from them. Although I didn't in the past. I used to argue and shout earlier on my channel. I don't anymore. I've just decided to enjoy it. And since I've stopped getting involved with arguments, this hobby has been, it's, I can't explain to people how much this hobby means to me. And that's more important than the knives, actually. If I didn't have somebody to sit and talk to, I'd go insane, because the wife would lock me up for talking to a camera. So, I mean,
well,
it is.
When I started collecting knives about 10 years ago.
Cheers, Paul.
And I saw somewhere where somebody said either on a video or I saw it in a forum. I can't remember where I saw it, or maybe I saw it in a book. But it's if you're a knife person, you're probably the only person you know who loves knives, and that's true. And so this format allows all of us, all these guys, meeting Randy and collecting with Stan and all these different people are like-minded, right?
Yeah.
And that's the cool thing. And
And what Slippy has created over there in the UK is another part of it. And I think, there's a lot of places that if somebody was to start it up, it really has, there's a lovely little community now there. And as it's progressed and it's grown, Slippy's been very clever. He has got the part of the sanitarium where it's about knife chat and it's PG rated. There's no swearing, no nothing. Then he has an after hours club where if you want to swear and you want to, maybe act a leg and whatever, that's the place to go. And then they've got places to buy knives, like buy stuff off Randy. There's another leather worker. But he's given the option to people who are just doing casual work, for want of a better word,
mhm.
that can sell on there. But you don't get on there just right away. You have to, be in that community, and that's fantastic. It's unique, I think, Slippy's Sanitarium. So if you get a chance, go over and join it.
Where is it again? On Instagram?
It's on, no, it's Facebook.
Okay.
Facebook, Slippy Sanitarium. I think somebody else write that up in there. Randy, what's it called, the proper name? I'm terrible at remember. I don't even remember my surname half my life. Randy will put the title of it up. I think it's a SLIPJOINTS Sanitarium. Is Randy still in? Anybody else? Baldy's Blades will put it in.
Yesterday,
What does Discord mean?
I went to transfer some money yesterday, and she's like, "Okay, what's your account number?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I don't know that." And then she asked me. I started to give her the wrong account number, and my wife said, "It's this." And so I'm thank you, honey. So she's listening to everything I say, and then she asked me, what my phone number is. I couldn't remember my phone number. I'm sure she thought I was trying to, do something improper, but I just couldn't. My mind, I couldn't think of anything.
There it is up there. Randy's put it up because he's professional. The SLIPJOINTS Sanitarium on Discord.
What still don't know what Discord.
I have no idea what Discord is. Look, I had to get Slippy to sign me in. I couldn't get through the signing in process. So, I mean, I'm the worst person to ask. I can now go between the different things in the sanitarium. I couldn't for 6 months. I just didn't get involved because I couldn't work out how to go. And I was madness.
You couldn't figure it out. All right. Wow. All right. Here's knives. Let's see. We've covered a broad spectrum here today.
What about a vote in the audience? What about, do you prefer older slip joints or do you prefer more modern slip joints? And I'm leaving that sort of quite wide. So the modern era is from when you designate it modern, or the older era is, obviously going back further. But which do you prefer? Take a proper vote on genuinely, do you like the older or the newer? I would just love to see what that breakdown is in slip joints. So let's start throwing them up there.
You get guys telling you you're part of the Discord on Slippy's thing, so they know you are.
Yeah, this last couple of days I've actually been on there more and more. I'm starting to enjoy it now that I've got around the working of it. So both, I'm with you. The newer, the older traditionals, keep them coming in, boys. I want to see just how many of you have older is cheaper. Not necessarily, but yes, in general, older is cheaper.
What do you mean newer, Mikey? What do you consider newer? Is it post 2000 or 70s. What is newer?
I know just while we're waiting on Mikey to answer that, he started off being the very modern knives. That's what he started collecting. He started with a buck when he was a youngster, but when he became a collector, it was very modern locking knives. He's just stepping into the dark hole of slip joints. So
Slip joints, yeah. They'll grab you. I've heard that from a couple guys recently. I saw Mikey's a video where he talked about that, how he got, was mainly a modern folder guy, and then he got to looking at these and fell into it. And it's real easy to do because they just grab you, man. They grab you by the heart.
Absolutely.
I was looking yesterday. I spent a lot of time just looking at lockback knives, and there's some really great ones out there.
There's Tony's got 1980s and older. Jason Beecher, he prefers traditional knives. Midlife Crisis saying the newer machines are made a bit soulless. I sort of agree with that. Because I mean, here is one of the best pen knives I have. This is a Jack Wolf knife, Barlow. It's made fantastically. Modern version of a Barlow, fantastically made. Here is a Robeson.
Yeah.
Probably 90s. We were sort of guessing it would be somewhere around the 90s.
Yeah.
When I put these two in my hand, it's a completely different, it's like a different knife category in my head. This is what I absolutely love. And this is what I want to use if I'm going to have a job where I'm cutting all day long or I'm doing that. Yeah. But it's exquisitely made. So is this exquisitely made. Absolutely exquisitely made. Now, this would cost me £100. This would cost me £275. So there's a big difference in price.
Yeah.
But what you're paying for is what a lot of people want, and rightly so, because it's your want, is they want high-end materials with longevity in their blades. That they want to pay for that, and that's absolutely fine.
I'm glad you brought that up. So I've been wanting to get these for a while, and I just got one of these Battle Axe brands. And overall, it's a pretty nice knife. It has some problems. There's some the liners are a little bit proud, and when I say a little bit, it's enough to notice, right? It's not like a little bit. And then it only has a 1 or 2 walk on it, right? Yeah, it'll hold the blade just fine. You see that? But it's just so light. And I saw these on websites for $175. And I asked the question in the video, why would I do that when I could buy this? Okay, that's that Shatton Morgan from Queen that I bought for $80, right?
Yeah.
And this is not a perfect knife, right? No. It has some problems, but it's a lot better knife. And why would I? This is another one that I bought for $80. This is a 1940 knife from Robeson,
Super.
And I have a problem paying $175 for a traditional knife like this.
Do you know what annoys me about the company that's doing that? They've taken over Queen's old machinery and stuff like that, and they're practicing to get good before they start producing it. But yet you're charging us prices that are for something I would expect to be exemplary.
I'm not sure they're charging that. So you got to be fair about that, right? Because it's going to a retailer who is charging that. And how I know that is I bought that knife for $40 from Chicago Knife Works. So on their website, it was down. They were charging originally, I think, $119 for that. Right. And then they're selling it for $40. So that tells you how much they're marking these knives up and what they can get away with.
It also tells me that the standard of fit and finish mustn't be good, or they would have sold before they took them down to 40. And that's always
supposedly, though, there's not a lot of videos on them. That's why I did the video. But the ones I did watch, some of them were saying that it's improving. Right.
Which
you would expect. So as far as I know, these guys, the Coopers, don't have any knife experience. So they just wanted to make knives and started making them. And I applaud that.
Yep,
And I
absolutely.
support that. And the knife itself is, I think, is a good knife. I just don't think it's worth $175. You know, I wouldn't pay that. Now,
But
the
that's
knife
a
I
terrible
have
knife.
is from 2021, so maybe the 2024s are
Yeah.
vastly improved. So I said that in the video that, you know, hey, these things might be a whole lot better now.
But sort of one of the sentences you said sort of made it for me is they weren't really into knives. You know, that this is a new venture for them. But to start off a new venture by selling inferior knives to the price you're putting on them,
Yeah,
or letting another company put that price on them, is going to give you a bad reputation before you get to the knife that you want to have perfected, which is Queen.
yeah. Well, I think they got it really quick. So I don't know, but like when I looked on the websites, they were all sold out. So very few. They had 5 retailers they worked through. Very few of those retailers still had any knives. One of them had a couple knives, but you know, I'm not gonna, like I said, I'm not gonna spend $175 on the knife after what I got. You know.
Yeah. No, I mean that's the sort of sad bit for it. You don't want that reputation before you get everything together. Test run should be a test run price.
And the other thing is the amount of videos. So there's very few videos on that knife.
Uh,
How
that's
many
what,
videos are on this knife? Right?
yeah.
Everybody and his brother is out there saying this is a great knife.
But
So
I mean, this is the thing. It's not just that knife. That company, every knife comes out is of a great quality,
yeah,
and
it's amazing.
that's the thing that's driving people to them. They're not doing anything special. They're just making it right. They're making
Yeah,
a knife right. The QC is good. They're not using high-end materials. They're just using bone. They're using, really basic materials that anybody can make a knife out of if you've got the want to. But they're just charging a price that it everybody can save up to buy one. I mean, they start at 50, and I know that's dear to some people, but you can save up. Don't buy 3 Rough Riders and buy one of them. Is what I would say to people, because the difference will blow your mind.
yeah. But again, those rose crafts are we talked about that. They don't have the same appeal that some of the other knives have.
Yeah, there's Jesse saying, he spent 175 on a 1977 case, which, I mean, that's the prices. People will pay what they want to pay. And if you're selling it and people buy it, then that's exactly what it's worth. You have to accept that. And it was a very good year. It was a 1977, which was the year I joined the Navy.
Yeah. And it's different when you're talking. Case is the most collectible knife around the world. And so that's a little bit different when you're spending good money to get a really nice knife. These old pre-1940 knives, in good condition and excellent condition, you're going to pay a chunk of change to get them. But that's understandable because of the age of the knife and the history on them.
Yeah. I'm very impressed with my first Baron son, but I'm aware. Yeah, your review on that knife, it's really made me think that I want to get one. I haven't yet, because I have quite a few companies that I'm already buying from. But I mean, if it keeps going the way it is and they keep getting good reviews, it would make me buy it. It would definitely make me buy it.
So MBEDC, yes, I think that's true. I think they manipulate knife prices. However, for a long time, knife companies have set out. Where's that one you got, Patty, that is one of 200 or something like that? You got that?
Oh yes, sorry, the Shatton Morgan here.
Yeah.
This is a Shatton Morgan, beautiful knife. This one is one of 100.
Right. So knife companies did that, not really to manipulate the price on the knife, but that was for the collector. And so you had one of 100, and you were guaranteed that over time that price is going to go up. Trade did that, but they made like 12,000 knives, and so the prices didn't go up on those. Maybe they will in the future, but Case does that too with their limited series. I don't have one here, but it's 2,500 that they make limited edition, and they do that for the collector. They do it for you so that your investment will increase in value.
Yeah. But the other thing as well, they made 100 of this model, but they also maybe had exactly the same knife, but in a different handle material, made at the same time, and it was made one of 100. So they didn't just make, usually they didn't just make one. You know, this is the only one in this shape. They made others in this shape were also one of 100. So you would have had maybe 1,000 knives, but 10 different types of patterns or blades.
Yeah.
Because when you're making knives, the only way you can make money is by making them in multiple numbers. And, you know, doing 100, they wouldn't make anything on them. But it was 100 of this pattern. And that's what you have to remember, just this pattern.
One thing I've noticed is like I don't buy purposely. Like I bought a limited edition Case Barlow. It was a red saw cut bone, and I liked it, and I bought it. But it was a limited edition, and that's when I saw the 1 in 2,500. But later on, they've come out with more. So that's a question in my mind: was that knife I bought 1 of 2,500 that they'll ever make, or was it 1 in 2,500 of a run, and then later on they're going to have another 1 in 2,500 run?
Yeah, and that's the gamble of a lot of people buy knives thinking they're going to make money on them, and then all of a sudden there's another run of 2,000. For example, the Spyderco SLIPJOINTS.
Yeah,
when they made that knife, that was going to be, there was going to be no more. There's been about 3 or 4 different drops since then.
Yeah.
So they really made them. I mean, they were going for £800.
Yeah.
You know, at one stage.
And that's, I think, where MBEDC was coming from, that they do it to manipulate prices. Somewhat, maybe. I think, you know, limited edition runs, I don't think are the best value for you. But, you know, sometimes, like in the past, they definitely gain in value.
Yeah. I mean, there is certain ones that have kept that trend going for years.
Like that knife you showed is probably worth 4 or 5 times what it was sold for in the 90s. You know, probably sold for around $23, $25. Today they're worth 100 or more.
Yeah.
And that keeps going up because more and more people are realizing those old knives are nice.
You know, and I think the more knives now, whereas you go back a few years, go back, 20, 30 years, there wasn't this media out there for knives to get shown, for people to see what else is out there. I mean, anybody can walk into YouTube now, come into the knife channel or come into the YouTube itself, and they'll find multiple people showing knives off, talking about knives, and they just get blown away because they didn't realize there was that many even for sale. And that's what sort of enticed me into YouTube. Fell into it by chance. And then it just sort of multiplied when I started watching, you know, different channels like Apostle P, the RAF pilot, what do you call him? Him and his son do it now in the bunker. Can't think of his name.
Oh,
not an RAF pilot. He was an American Air Force pilot.
Yeah. Man, I love watching his channel too.
Yeah, but that was the sort of channels I watched in the beginning. I mean, I was hooked on them. And again, I mean, from Apostle P to him, there was completely conflicting knives that were showing, and they liked, and I loved that because I just didn't know they were out there to buy. And now, I mean, you can buy knives everywhere now, and even in the UK, which is fantastic.
It's still, I mean, the reason I watch knife channels is I like looking at other people's knives, and like I told you about Jesse, I saw that bayonet I'd never seen before. I see knives, you know, like Tom Knife Delights. You know, he had some knives on there the other day. I've never seen them before and didn't realize they made them. And I think that's cool because there's just so many knives out there. and you kind of see the same thing, but there's also a lot that you've never seen before. That's why I like vintage knives.
Yeah, I do. And I have a lot of little small pen knives, vintage pen knives, but they're beautifully made, exquisitely made, and probably an awful lot of people don't. I'm going to show one now. Just here's one that comes in this beautiful little box. It's a George Wilson home. This is its original box.
Right. Those are cool too, by the way.
It's a beautiful little knife. Look at this here. A little mother of pearl for a pocket chain. Got the wee lanyard loop there. Not lanyard loop.
Yeah.
You know what I mean.
I know.
It's a little two-bladed penknife in mother of pearl, which is just, and this is like new old stock. It is perfect in every way. And that's why I keep it in the box. It's probably the only knife I have in a box. But I just adore it. Beautiful little knife. So, I mean, that sort of thing excites me just as much as a Jack Wolf. I get as much enjoyment from that. And I think if you can, I think that's the thing. Open your mind and try different things. If you haven't tried, the older knives, get one, get it in hand, use it, sharpen it. You'd be amazed just how good they are.
Pocket EDC showed a knife the other day. Actually, he showed it twice, but so he showed it when it was new, and then when he cleaned it up. But it was a lock and a type of lock I'd never really seen before on a knife, and the knife was not a name brand knife, but it looked good, especially after he cleaned it up, and that's the kind of thing that really interests me is it just seems endless with vintage knives, the variety and the difference in knives, and you just don't get that out of modern folders. It's just like another
it's a
modern
different
looking folder.
But I mean, I love my modern folders too. Do you know what I mean? I don't have a whole lot of them anymore. I used to have hundreds, and I mean hundreds.
Yeah.
But now I have about 20, but maybe only 10 of them are good ones. Do you know what I mean? What I call good ones now.
I buy a couple a year, maybe 4 sometimes a year, but I really don't buy a lot of them. I'll see one and I'll say, well, I like that, and I'll buy it for a reason, right?
Yeah, it's like I've got a couple of bayonets up there, but I don't collect military stuff. It was just them two where I could find something related to me. One of them was a bayonet that I used in my SLR when I was in the services. The other one was an old UK officer's bayonet that they used at Dartmouth, and the officer's name was Anderson, which is my name. So it really thought, that's for me. I've got to have it. I mean, it'll sit up there forever, but I take it down every now and then, have a look at it. It doesn't come on the channel much. It's something just for me.
That's a grandfather you never even knew you had.
You just never know. You never know. I'm still convinced that I'm not even sure I have parents.
A brother from a different mother.
Yeah. So most of the old Rowanson made by Queen from the 90s and early 2000s, ATS Super Steel, they were awesome, and the QC was top quality. Bill Hard era at Queen, fantastic. I mean, Bill Hard was the backbone of Queen, and when he left, it just went so sad. I memean, I hate to hear of companies going to the wall, especially ones that are in our more Western, side of the world. I mean, the UK went through a terrible, just completely battered. It's now creeping up slowly again because people that are buying the company names and starting, selling knives again are putting a wee bit of pride back into it again. And it's lovely to see it growing. And they're being sold in America now again, which is their first time in a long, long time. And I just love that. And the American knives, that even them ones that we're talking about earlier on that have bought the old machinery, they're trying their best to build it. And they really do have my full backing, because it must be hard to start a knife company
nowadays. Nowadays in America, I mean, the regulation behind that kind of venture, I heard the guy, I watched him in an interview. I don't remember his name, but the owner of Home Depot, he said if he had to start Home Depot today. He couldn't do it. He said the
No.
regulation is so bad you couldn't get started. And it's a lot of crap, boy, I'll tell you.
But
And
you take any manufacturing now, health and safety has run riot with destroying, anybody wanting to start up a manufacturing company. I mean,
yeah,
health and safety is just, I don't know what it's like over there, but over here, it is ridiculous.
yeah, that's the advantage that China has. They don't care about that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the Chinese government owns every corporation, so
Yeah.
that they also are subsidized, and that's how they can make knives like these.
Yeah.
That's
Beautiful.
a perfect knife. It's
Yeah.
real, genuine abalone,
Yeah.
and it was $16, and could they do that? The situation was different now. They're just dumping knives on the American market.
Well, I mean, I think they've even gone past the stage of dumping. They're now selling very high-end knives by the bucketful, and they're making a lot of money on them.
Yeah.
And that's what they wanted all along. So, I mean, it's one of them things. I mean, I have nothing against the Chinese people. I don't like the way that they work but that's all they've ever done. Whereas we have lived in
Well,
life.
the English did that,
Yeah. What?
The English did that.
Look, so you can't blame the UK on everything.
Yeah, the English, you
be careful. A lot of your subscribers are UK here.
Yeah, I know, Russell. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I'm only joking.
That Russell was so popular, like the UK and the United States back in the 1800s was like China now. They had 70% of the market or better, and you couldn't get going. And Russell started producing these camp knives, and they were extremely popular. They were well made, and he was selling a ton of them. And the English talked about that. The Hall of Cutlers had a discussion about it, and they agreed that they would sell knives in the U.S. for less than it cost to make them, to run him out of business. So it's not the first time that a company, has dumped knives in another.
Yeah. The knife collecting world has so much history.
Yeah.
So going back years, and it's rightly so. It's one of the most used tools in the world.
Yeah.
So why shouldn't it be controversial? Why shouldn't there be, it's going to happen. The same with cars, the same with anything. Whatever you talk about, there's always going to be the China versus the rest of the world, or the Russia versus the rest of the world. I mean, you're going to get that.
Yeah.
Michael, I need to get you on mine and Randy's show.
Yeah, I'll do that. I'll just send me a line when you want me to come on, and we'll do it. And vice versa, by the way. I've been trying to get somebody to come on,
Yes, this man needs people on instead of this silly old fat Paddy boy.
But, I don't know. They don't like me.
People are incredibly shy. We're the same with our show, and we've been going for over a year now. It's so difficult to get people to come on. And it's an irrational fear because it's just a chat. I mean, that's all it is. It's simply just a chat.
You don't have to know anything. It's like, especially like if I had another channel on, it would be more an introduction of that channel. What are you about? What do you like? What is your channel about? Where would you like your channel to go? It's not about how much you know. You don't really have to know anything to show a knife.
Just have to like a shiny thing and hold it up.
Yeah, I mean, you're a good example of that.
Woo! Nails down the wall.
All right. Well, we're over time here, so I'm going to go ahead and we're going to say bye. So we'll give you guys a few minutes to say bye to each other, And
I
then,
hope you enjoyed it. I really enjoyed this chat tonight.
yeah.
And this is what it is. Two fellas having a chat and you join in when you can and if you can. But I love the fact that people chat in the talk box. That's just great to see people chatting. Making new friends.
We shouldn't have got off on politics, but
Sure, it happens, doesn't it?
yeah, they're gonna be at your house shutting you down, taking your computer and everything.
They'll never shut me down. Patty says no.
All right. So thanks so much, Stephen, for
thank you. It's been a
coming
pleasure
on.
as usual. And you cried in there. Thank you so much. You make it definitely worthwhile.
All right.
And before you go, hit the bloody like button and subscribe to Rasputin's Castle. I'm not telling you every week. Just do it.
All right. Thank you all. We're going to beg out here.
Take care. Bye-bye now.
In stream.